get upset and put up their own candidate that ensures. So I don't think there's no concerted plan to get rid of her, but there is a desire. Everything that we're about to see in this press conference will be designed to calm those nerves, but it matters what voters think and what the markets think, as well as what Tory MPs think. Everybody is watching Liz Truss right now. It's got to be an incredible performance on a personal and a political level. Can she pull that off?
There must be some furious Tory party members as well who voted for Liz Truss on that manifesto of big tax cuts and growth for the economy and the like, who are now about to see another U-turn, a second U-turn. There must be fury in the Shires about that, isn't there?
I think the fury stems to the fact that every Conservative would want to see lower taxes, but what Liz Truss has done is effectively toxified the entire idea of lowering taxes, because she's done it in such a way that crashes the market without due regard to sound money, that other great bit of the Conservative reputation, of bedrock of Conservative principles. Liz Truss consciously kind of modelled herself on Margaret Thatcher. But in doing so, she modelled herself on, she cherry-picked some bits of the former Prime Minister's reputation, ideology and policy platform, but not others. And I think what quite a lot of Conservatives would say is you can't have the tax cuts without the sound money. There's no shortcut here, there's no easy answer, there's no just telling everybody that we can't go along with orthodoxies. The one is required for the other. And this is why this press conference is so important. Because you've got to, I think the nation, the world, the financial world is looking Liz Truss in the eye and going, have you genuinely changed how you see the world and how you're going to behave now, and retreated on some of what lots of Tory MPs think is just downright mad? Or do you seek to just sort of push off a bit of the blame, not really U-turn on enough of your mini budget, and actually think that your job today is all about hanging on in the face of political pressure and sacrificing Kwasi Kwarteng as a sacrificial lamb, as a scapegoat, in order to sort of try and protect your own reputation, bringing in a kind of a former foreign secretary to sort of look credible, but without really doing the hard yards of policy work to deliver what's necessary. It's, you know, this press conference is a credibility test, and you'll be able to hear it from the way she addresses questions. You'll be able to hear it from the questions themselves. I think it's one of those 360 job interviews she's about to go through. I wouldn't expect it to be particularly pleasant at points. I'm really interested even to see just how many questions she takes, just how much she's willing to throw open. There'll be some contrition, but is it on the big things? There'll be some apology, but it is on the substantial things. How much does she try and just sort of go, it was him, and he's gone? And how much do people believe that? So those are the really, really important questions that we're gonna find out. And it requires huge flexibility to deal with that sort of, you know, the slightly raw knuckle, you know, hostile questions at a moment like this. And she's not like Boris Johnson. She hasn't thrown herself open to the media. She's not one of those prime ministers who's done sort of press conferences.
I'm going to interrupt Sam because she's about to speak. Let's listen in to the Prime Minister, Liz Truss.
Good afternoon. My conviction that this country needs to go for growth is rooted in my personal experience. I know what it's like to grow up somewhere that isn't feeling the benefits of growth. I saw what that meant, and I'm not prepared to accept that for our country. I want a country where people can get good jobs, new businesses can set up, and families can afford an even better life. That's why, from day one, I've been ambitious for growth. Since the 2008 financial crisis, the potential of this great country has been held back by persistently weak growth. I want to deliver a low-tax, high-wage, high-growth economy. It's what I was elected by my party to do. That mission remains. People across this country rightly want stability. That's why we acted to support businesses and households with their energy costs this winter. It's also the case that global economic conditions are worsening due to the continuation of Putin's appalling war in Ukraine. And on top of this, debt was amassed helping people through the COVID pandemic. But it is clear that parts of our mini-budget went further and faster than markets were expecting. So the way we are delivering our mission right now has to change. We need to act now to reassure the markets of our fiscal discipline. I have therefore decided to keep the increase in corporation tax that was planned by the previous government. This will raise £18 billion per year. It will act as a down payment on our full medium-term fiscal plan, which will be accompanied by a forecast from the independent OBR. We will do whatever is necessary to ensure debt is falling as a share of the economy in the medium term. We will control the size of the state to ensure that taxpayers' money is always well spent. Our public sector will become more efficient to deliver world-class services for the British people. And spending will grow less rapidly than previously planned. I met the former Chancellor earlier today. I was incredibly sorry to lose him. He is a great friend, and he shares my vision to set this country on the path to growth. Today, I have asked Jeremy Hunt to become the new Chancellor. He's one of the most experienced and widely respected government ministers and parliamentarians, and he shares my convictions and ambitions for our country. He will deliver the medium-term fiscal plan at the end of this month. He will see through the support we are providing to help families and businesses, including our energy price guarantee that's protecting people from higher energy bills this winter. And he will drive our mission to go for growth, including taking forward the supply-side reforms that our country needs. We owe it to the next generation to improve our economic performance, to deliver higher wages, new jobs and better public services, and to ease the burden of debt. I have acted decisively today because my priority is ensuring our country's economic stability. As Prime Minister, I will always act in the national interest. This is always my first consideration. I want to be honest, this is difficult, but we will get through this storm, and we will deliver the strong and sustained growth that can transform the prosperity of our country for generations to come. I'll now take questions. Can I start with Ben Riley-Smith, Telegraph?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Clearly a difficult day. Can you explain to the public why you think you should remain as Prime Minister, given you jumped a key tax cut that led you to be elected and got rid of your Chancellor?
I'm absolutely determined to see through what I have promised, to deliver a higher growth, more prosperous United Kingdom, to see us through the storm we face. We've already delivered the energy price guarantee, making sure people aren't facing huge bills this winter. But it was right, in the face of the issues that we had, that I acted decisively to ensure that we have economic stability, because that is vitally important to people and businesses right across our country. Harry Cole.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Harry Cole from The Sun. You were the one that wanted to cut the 45p rate. You stood on a platform to win the leadership of the Conservative Party on a platform to cut corporation tax. You and the Chancellor, the ex-Chancellor, designed this budget together, in lockstep, we're told, at times in secret, the two of you. He has to go because of the fallout from it. How come you get to stay?
Well, my priority is making sure we deliver the economic stability that our country needs. That's why I had to take the difficult decisions I've taken today. The mission remains the same. We do need to raise our country's economic growth levels. We do need to deliver for people across the country. We're committed to delivering on the energy price guarantee, which people are already seeing in their bills. But ultimately, we also need to make sure that we have economic stability, and I have to act in the national interest as Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC.
Excuse the bluntness, Prime Minister, but given everything that has happened, what credibility do you have to continue governing?
What I've done today is made sure that we have economic stability in this country. Jeremy Hunt, as Chancellor, is somebody who shares my desire for a high-growth, low-tax economy. But we recognise, because of current market issues, we have to deliver the mission in a different way. And that's what we are absolutely committed to do, achieving that stability at what is a very difficult time globally. Robert Peston.
Prime Minister, the former Tory Chancellor, Philip Hammond, has just said that you have totally trashed the Tory party's election-winning reputation for economic competence. Will you apologise to your party?
Well, I am determined to deliver on what I set out when I campaigned to be party leader. We need to have a high-growth economy, but we have to recognise that we are facing very difficult issues as a country. And it was right, in the national interest, that I made the decisions I've made today to restore that economic stability so we can deliver, first of all, helping people through this winter and next winter with their energy bills, but also making sure that our country is on the long-term footing for sustainable economic growth. Thank you very much, everybody.
Prime Minister, are you going to say sorry? Are you, Prime Minister?
The Prime Minister, Liz Truss, perhaps not speaking for as long as many had expected, and certainly not taking as many questions as many broadcasters and journalists had hoped. She said that she still believes in growth. Since day one, I've been ambitious for growth, and that mission remains. But she did say parts of the mini-budget went further and faster than the markets could deal with. And as a result, she carried out that U-turn on corporation tax, saying it will bring in £18 billion. Now, she spoke about Kwasi Kwarteng, and she said, I'm sorry to lose the former Chancellor, but Jeremy Hunt, the new Chancellor, as we know, shares my convictions and ambitions for this country. And then she said it again, and in fact, she said it numerous times. We'll ask Sam in a moment if he was keeping account. How many times did you hear her say, we are going to restore economic stability? She was asked, what credibility do you still have as Prime Minister, having carried out this U-turn? Kwasi Kwarteng gets to stay, she was asked. How come you get to stay? And she said that she will deliver this mission of hers in a different way. Fascinating. You said earlier, Sam, didn't you, that it's all about the presentation. It's as much about how she delivers that speech as it is about the content. What was your reaction to it?
I mean, it's very hard to watch that and not feel slightly tense, because you did not get the impression of a Prime Minister completely at ease with the situation. And you're right, you ran through the summary of what she said. Before the press conference, much shorter than I expected. She only spoke for 7 minutes and took 5 questions. When she did so, I was looking for certain things. To what extent did she accept the blame for what's happened in order to tell the markets, the voters and her MPs she would do things differently in future? And the answer to that is almost none. She argues the reason things have gone wrong was because of market reaction. That's not a mea culpa. That's not saying any bit of my vision is wrong. That's simply saying that there was an external reason that meant that things got a bit hairy. We'll put that right. She did not resile from the decisions that she made. She sought to blame somebody else. In fact, she pretty much started her statement by saying she was right about everything. Right? That's quite incredible. She thinks she was right about her mission, which is to kickstart growth. She said there hadn't really been growth since 2008. I mean, that's sort of broadly true. It's been Conservative government, or Conservative in Downing Street for, 12 of the last 14 years since 2008. So that's quite a punchy statement by any standards. But what she was not doing was saying. She sort of conceded she went too far too fast, but not that she did the wrong thing, not that she understands the principles of sound money. And then on the politics, this I felt was absolutely fascinating. She has sacked Kwasi Kwarteng today, and she did not assign any blame to him. She didn't say it was his fault. He didn't say he got it wrong. I mean, on one level, we were talking about this earlier. You can't, because it was her as well. She signed off on all the policies. But at the same point, perhaps she doesn't dare. I mean, perhaps she's worried about what he might say in a day or a week in the Commons or on telly. You know, I sacked him, but I'm not going to tell you why. And what an extraordinary position that's in. Instead, you've got a knight in shining armour, Jeremy Hunt. He's going to come along on his steed, dismount outside number 11, walk in and deal with economic stability. Yes, but I think the argument from some Tory MPs would be, how do you get to economic stability unless you can recognise, address and undo the problems that have got us to this point? And then one final thought. She reversed almost nothing of the mini-budget. Yes, she reversed the corporation tax rise, one of the two big promises of her election campaign. But unless I'm missing something, I didn't hear anything else. Because she spent hundreds of billions of pounds in that mini-budget, and she's now reversed a second bit. But there's vast swathes. The thing that the city were quite spooked about was the sheer scale of the universal energy price help. Right? Every company, every household, 2 years for the consumer stuff. You know, she doubled down on that. That's the thing that's astronomically expensive. That basically really upset people who watch borrowing levels and want Britain to live within their means, whether you're on the market side or the political side. So, in substance, not very much of a mea culpa. It was just so awkward to watch. I mean, you were not sensing a Prime Minister enjoying it. Of course you're not going to enjoy a day like today, but it's not your job to telegraph your lack of enjoyment. It's your job to show that you are in control, you have a plan, and you will sort this out. And viewers will judge the extent to which they think that she did that. But is this plan big enough? Is this bold enough? Is this the reset that Conservative MPs are looking at? Is this the change of direction that the markets need? Is this a performance that will be seen as credible in the eyes of voters? Those are the three verdicts that we wait for after an extraordinarily short, not particularly enthusiastic, press conference.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, isn't it, to get that reaction, and that reaction will be coming thick and fast, I'm sure. But as you say, it was so short, wasn't it? And it leaves many questions unanswered, and that's the problem here, isn't it? Because if you're the captain of the ship and you're steering that ship in a new direction, people want to know exactly where they're going.
Here's one question in neon lights. Liz Truss in that press conference said spending will grow less rapidly. So are we now heading into a path of spending cuts in lots of different bits of the economy? It might not be overall spending reductions, but it sounds like we are now heading into a very difficult situation when it comes to bits of Whitehall public spending. Liz Truss, of course, has spent hundreds of billions of pounds on an energy price freeze and all the rest of it. So she's not going to cut overall public spending, but she's now signalling to everybody that she is going to cut Whitehall budgets. So whether that's a squeeze on schools or police, you know, which could impact frontline numbers, or quite how they're going to deal with the MOD, all of these things are going to come under enormous pressure between now and the 31st of October, a date which remains the moment where the OBR the Independent Fiscal Watchdog, will tell us how big the black hole is that she needs to find. It's going to be filled a bit with corporation tax. We learnt that today, £18 billion a year. Didn't hear anything else. So do those three audiences find it credible? We're going to bring you that information all afternoon.
Well, let's find out right now, Sam. Thank you for the moment. Our business presenter, Ian King, is in the city. He was listening to that news conference along with the rest of the city and indeed traders around the globe. Ian, what did you make of it? What are the markets making of it? Well, I can tell you what the markets have made of it. Really, it's been very interesting all morning. Gilt yields, which are obviously implied government borrowing costs, had been coming down for most of the morning, as indeed they have done for most of the last 48 hours. But really, things started to turn around the time that Kwasi Kwarteng's resignation was confirmed. You've seen gilt yields starting to creep higher right across the yield curve, really. The 20 to 30-year gilts, obviously, crucially the ones that the Bank of England has been buying at the moment. They have started to tick back higher again in the last hour or so. And the sell-off that we've seen in sterling has intensified as well. Now, there is a theory to this. I mean, there is an old saying in markets that it is better to travel than to arrive. You buy the rumour and sell the confirmation. You buy the rumour and sell the fact. And there's a bit of that that's perhaps going on. I think the markets were pricing in Kwasi Kwarteng's resignation and, crucially, this backtrack on the corporation tax decision that is going to now rise after all. I can give you some reaction from business on this, Jonathan. This is a statement that's just been put out by Make UK, which is the key industry body for British manufacturers. And its chief executive, Stephen Phipson, has just said, on its own, the short-term decision to increase corporation tax again sends the wrong signal to investors as to how attractive the UK is as a destination for foreign investment. However, there are far bigger issues at play than just a single decision on tax. The UK urgently needs a long-term, credible economic and industrial strategy, which includes a wide-ranging view of how we boost investment in the round. This must include a properly designed and targeted taxation system which reflects the real-world investment decisions that companies make. We cannot go on zigzagging from one policy to the next. And Make UK are also, they had a survey on manufacturing investment, and one of the key findings in this, 2/3 of the companies in this survey say increasing the rate of corporation tax will make the UK less attractive to foreign investment. More than half of companies say it will result in manufacturers investing less capital, and a third say an increase will wipe out the benefits of increased capital allowances. And I think that is something that businesses are really going to be looking for now. The last but two chancellors now. Rishi Sunak, the defeated Conservative leadership contender, of course, now in his budget in the spring, he was the guy who, of course, announced this big increase in corporation tax from 19 to 25%. But in doing so, he sweetened the pill by adding investment allowances and reliefs that were all aimed at encouraging businesses to invest. And obviously, that's to try and get to grips with the UK's very long-established productivity issues. And really, Kwasi Kwarteng went for the opposite approach of just going for a very, very low corporation tax rate. I think businesses will now be looking for Jeremy Hunt, the new Chancellor, to reintroduce some of these investment reliefs and tax reliefs to encourage investment further. There is also a very specific issue, Jonathan, with the banking sector. Now, the banks already pay a higher rate of taxation. There is a surcharge on bank profits, and that was going to remain in place when corporation tax the increases weren't going to go ahead. Now that increase is going to go ahead. I suspect the banking sector in particular will be looking for some sort of remedial action to bring down the banking surcharge so they aren't left paying a higher than expected rate of tax. One other point to make is that this higher rate of income tax for corporates means that effectively the UK now has one of the highest corporation tax in the developed world if you look at corporation tax as a proportion of GDP. Only Australia and Japan will be higher. And again, that is not a message that the government really wants to be sending out to the world right now. OK, Ian, I know you're going to keep an eye on things in the city for us. We will speak to you again, I'm sure, throughout the afternoon. Meanwhile, our political editor, Beth Rigby, is with me now. The lady apparently is for turning. A massive climb down, Beth. You were in that room. She spoke for, what, 6 or 7 minutes?
8 minutes, 21 seconds, because we were recording it.
You were recording it. And 4 or 5 questions.
4 questions.
What did you make of it?
Look, in terms of the policy announcement, there you had the second massive U-turn. And if MPs were saying at party conference the 45 pence scrapping plans to scrap that was not instrumental in changing her economic policy, this one is, because she's decided to implement Rishi Sunak's plan to lift corporation tax to 25 pence in April next year. He wanted to lift it to 25 pence. She said when she was running to be leader, I'm going to not introduce that and I want to cut it to 19 pence or keep it at 19 pence. That was a major platform which she was elected as Tory leader on. She has now U-turned on that, and she's done it. It's a sizable policy change. It's £18 billion worth of tax cuts reversed. So that's point one, Jonathan. That is hugely significant. She's also sacked her Chancellor, saying there that she was sorry to see him go, even though she was the one that asked him to stand down. So in terms of the Liz Truss government admission, she is now saying that she's ripping up a big part of that mini budget and that campaign platform that she stood on. And yet she didn't really want to ask questions. And I have to say that the journalist in the room, we were genuinely shocked that she only took 4 questions. She took 4 questions, one from the Telegraph, one from the Sun, one from the BBC and one from ITV, and then left the room. So the journalists in the room were, that this is such a big announcement.
What message does that send? Because that in itself doesn't send a good message.
The reason why this matters is not just the communication with the public on a decision to reverse a massive part of that mini budget and sack her Chancellor just weeks into her premiership. And my messages from Conservative MPs ahead of that press conference was she has to put in a really good, reassuring performance in order to reassure them that she is not politically out of her depth, that she can handle being the Prime Minister. And what she did in there, I don't think reassured anyone. Now, in fact, one MP messaged me afterwards and said, even for Liz Truss, that was shockingly bad. That's what an MP messaged me. Now, what was she doing in terms of the markets? There were 2 other things in there. She said that the £18 billion of tax cut reversals, she said, was a down payment on our medium-term fiscal plan. What might she mean by that? She's signalling to the markets that she's prepared to make more reversals on the policy in order to reassure the markets. So that's an important message that she gave to the markets. She gave a second message to the markets, Jonathan, as well. She said that spending will not grow as fast as previously planned. Now, whether that is spending cuts or how she actually does that in practice, but she's signalling to the markets as well that she recognises that £60 billion black hole in the books, which the IFS was talking about, and she's looking at ways to deal with that. But I do not think that that will have reassured politicians and MPs. She is in deep trouble.
You're not convinced it was enough? Well, we shall find out, shan't we, in coming hours and days. Beth, for the moment, thank you very much. You're watching Sky News, where the Prime Minister has said she still believes in growth. She says that from day one, I've been ambitious for growth. That mission remains, but she has carried out a huge U-turn over corporation tax, something which she says will bring in £18 billion. She has also sacked Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng, and she has appointed Jeremy Hunt. We'll have ongoing coverage throughout the day here on Sky News. Stay with us.